G'day everyone, welcome again to the Infinite Show. This time, it's going to be a bit different. I think we're going to do a competition. Basically, we're going to argue over a few points, about 8 points. And for each round, we want you, the viewer, to decide who you think won each round. If that's too much labor for you, then simply decide at the end of the video who won overall. So basically, I did a community post on this, and I asked you all, some of your hot takes and opinions. One I saw repeated a few times, and I think the one I wanted to approach first, is the library actually a good level? Is it underrated?
Ooh. Hey, listen, I think this might have been posted by Hidden Xperia in disguise, to be honest. No offense to him at all. But, I mean, look, as someone who's had to defend kind of mediocre Halo missions before, shameless plug, it's
link in the description.
Yeah, link in the description. It's like the library is it's okay, I think, on normal heroic difficulty, but on trying to do it on legendary, and I know this is going to sound stupid, but it just becomes so much worse. Those little hallways that you go through just feel 10 times longer, and it's not necessarily that the level is bad, it's just that there's this ever-increasing amount of shit that keeps getting thrown your way in the form of different flood forms, and Guilty Spark keeping doors closed, and Rocket Flood. I mean, it is what it is. Most of Halo Combat Evolved's missions are a bit repetitive, so it's probably the weakest mission in the game, but again, Combat Evolved's weakest is still better than many other FPS games' best, so... Yeah, no, I think the library's actually pretty good. I think conceptually, at least, I think it's probably one of the most interesting levels in the game, actually. I think it's the idea, I think it was some old Borges short story, really reaching into the literature now, where there was some alternate universe where basically the entire universe is just some giant library, and it's just filled with all these books. I think it's a specific number of books, like 410 pages every book, and they're all just a random string of, of like 25 characters, right? Basically, the whole point of it is, I think libraries are just a very interesting concept, recurring concept in sci-fi in general. One thing I will say, I actually don't mind that it's longer on repeat playthroughs, because now for me, as a fan, as somebody who's played through a few times, I can blaze through the levels so easily and so quickly. I actually don't mind going back to a level and it actually taking longer. And I heard that from the playtests. I forget who the designer of that level was, but apparently he kept on replaying the level and just kept on extending it every time he found it too easy. Overall,
I actually enjoy the whole vibe of the mission. I think my biggest gripe with it, though, is whenever you're waiting for 3 Guilty Spark, and he just leaves you, and then you have to just face the hordes of the flood, in a corner. In general, I like the horror aspect of that, because it's like you're backed against the wall, and you have to kill them all. But I think it was, after the third time, it got a little too repetitive, in my opinion. So I think there are aspects of the mission that are really great, but overall, I think it was definitely the weakest CE mission. So... oh god, so I don't want to say it's good, I'd say it's okay, but I'm probably gonna go on Laper's side here. I think
it's okay. It is the worst mission in CE. I think the biggest problem with it is the repetitiveness, and how every room is the exact same. And I think it was SPV3, the fan-made kind of reimagining of Combat Evolved, that did their own take on the library, where each level was because even something as simple as making each level a different color, because every time you go up to a different stage, it's literally the same play space, same color, everything. Whereas SPV3 kind of changed it a little bit, different colors and aesthetics for each level. I think there was a Wraith encounter that wasn't previously there on the mission, and some different Covenant fortifications and stuff. But the other thing that you mentioned that I want to tack onto is the horror aspect, and the idea of this endless wave of flood coming towards you. I think that they could have played around more with the idea of maybe this structure, because obviously the flood are already in there. Maybe they've the power is starting to go out, the lights are starting to go down, and it's getting gradually worse as you go up through the levels to get to the key. and like the lights go out, you have to use the flashlight on your shotgun or the helmet and stuff, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. Instead of just the same level over and over and over again with like rocket flood sometimes, or shotgun flood other times and whatever. Like really play into the horror aspect, because Combat Evolved kind of did that the best with missions like Guilty Spark and sort of
big agree.
Yeah. So I think if they had done something like that and just made each area slightly different visually and added to the difficulty in ways other than just throwing harder enemies at you, it would probably be like a solid 7 out of 10 mission, rather than where it currently is, where it's more like a 4.5 or a 5 maybe.
I agree with that. I don't think it's good or bad, but it's in the middle. So I think it's a fair evaluation of it.
So can Halo be Halo without the Master Chief? Is Master Chief essential to Halo's success?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to say that outright right now. I think that when you have a character as iconic as Master Chief, who has been around for 20 plus years and is essentially not just the face of Halo, but now the Xbox brand as a whole, I think that doing away with him and the iconography that comes from that would be a very, very stupid decision. And I mean, we've already roughly seen 343 try to do that with characters like Spartan Locke, and it just didn't work. I think you can have games in the middle that maybe bridge the gaps or tell stories that don't focus around Chief. At its core, I think Halo is the Master Chief's story.
Honestly, you don't need Master Chief for a Halo game, for a successful Halo game. I think, again, like examples you gave, Reach and ODST, right? They had a character that was basically just a stand-in for Master Chief, like Noble 6. It was the same exact design philosophy as Master Chief. He was a husk. Yeah, I feel like it almost ties the game down and almost makes it a bit fantastical as well, when you're this one super soldier who literally saves humanity like 6 times in a row, like every time.
So I think, so I agree with Laper's original point. And I also agree with what you're saying as well, Shadow Nerd. So you can actually have a Halo game that's successful without the Master Chief. I agree with that. But I think, like, overarching for Halo, and for Halo moving forward, I think you always need to have the Master Chief's presence. So even if he's not, let's say, in a Halo game, let's say he's not in, like, the future Halo ODST 2, if that ever comes out. Or let's say one where they decide to focus on Jerome and Isabel from Halo Wars 2. But if they still have, let's say, Halo Infinite DLC, where like the main thing is on Chief, I think that's going to be, most important for Halo and Xbox going forward, because as you guys were saying, Chief is still the more iconic person from Halo. If you think of Halo, you think of the Master Chief. You don't think of Jerome, even though they wear similar armor. You know what I mean? That's why I always think that Halo does need to have the Master Chief. You can't go like 5 or 10 years without talking about the Master Chief. But you still can have a really good Halo game without him.
Everything that happens in the games, more or less, seems to all come back to Chief and his involvement, whether it's, a prequel to Combat Evolved with Reach, one of the final things we see is the Pillar of Autumn, which again all comes
delivering
back to
Cortana.
Exactly, to Master Chief. With ODST, it's a result of Chief's actions earlier in Halo 2 when he, blows up the bloody Covenant ship and then goes down onto the streets of New Mombasa and fights his way to try and get to the Prophet of Regret. It's all like a result of him and his actions almost, like he's the crux and the catalyst rather of all the situations that happen. So
main driving force, yeah.
Like he's just one great big plot device, but he's also incredibly important to the story as just like something that we connect to. So I think you can do like characters that are similar to Chief, like your Noble Sixes and your rookies. Rest in peace.
He has a name now, by the way.
Yeah, literally John Doe. Like how stupid is that?
I know. John.
But like again, they are just that. They're facsimiles. They're copies of a formula that worked so well and has continued to work so well over time. So, I mean, at some point, Chief's story is going to have to end. No offense to Steve Downes, he's incredible, but he is getting up there in years, and Halo isn't. I mean, it's a franchise that has billions riding on it, so I'm sure it's going to go for decades. But at some point, his story is going to have to find its end. But until we get to that point, I think that Halo needs Master Chief to succeed.
Well, no, they'll continue without him. They'll continue without Chief. I mean, look at Look, the TV show, they're already taking off his helmet already and everything, giving him a new voice.
Yeah.
Cortana, it's some kind of foreigner object. Oh my god.
Just seem to be excavating. Well, no. I can't watch it, but
I need a weapon.
Sounds like Christian Bale.
No.
I need a weapon.
They could have gotten any actor to do Master Chief's voice though. Like I hate the argument that they didn't get Steve Downes to do it because he didn't fit the profile. Like, bro, you can just get him to dub the lines. Like you can get.
But they're taking off his helmet though. That's
they're showing Pablo Schreiber. So that's.
I mean, I wouldn't have made that choice either. But
yeah, I mean, like you could just get Steve Downes to dub, do the lip syncing as well. You could get Christopher Walken to do it. Wow, I need a weapon now. It's crazy.
Oh my, dude,
Cortana.
Cortana, I have a disease, and the only cure is more MA5B assault rifles. I need it now.
What am I listening to? What?
Christopher Walken, ladies and gentlemen.
Forget that. That is insane. Like, okay, I need to hear Sergeant Johnson right now.
So I don't think I can quite do Sergeant Johnson.
Okay,
no one can do Dave Scully like Dave Scully.
Dual wielding is a good mechanic. I'm gonna say yes. That's my opening argument because the rule of cool. It has to be about what's cool, what's exciting and fun to use. So people say it breaks the golden triangle design, right? Because, having grenades and melee and shooting available to you at all times. But I think, you could melee and you'd drop your weapon. So I don't think that was really much of an issue. You could pretty easily, disregard that and go back to one weapon. It's not like it kind of locked you in and locked you out of using grenades and things like that. I think one of the issues was, in Halo 2, right? When everyone started with an SMG and it was, super weak. It's hard to find a balance between too weak and too strong. And so by the time they got to Halo 3, there was a massive downgrade to accuracy and damage as well while you were dual wielding. And in Halo 3, dual wielding was basically useless. They shouldn't really have had, I think the accuracy penalty was fine, but they shouldn't have had the damage penalty while dual wielding. Because for one, it just, it feels like shit. It doesn't make, when something obviously doesn't make sense like that, it just tends to feel bad as a mechanic, it feels like the gun that you have a certain expectation for how it works, for how much damage it does, but then suddenly when you duel with it, suddenly when you have a second one, it arbitrarily does less damage for some reason. I think they should have found a way to make it work. I think in Halo 3, I think if they just slightly balanced it, again, removed, or at least slightly negated the damage penalty they had, then I think dual wielding probably could have stayed, and I think it would have been worth it if it had stayed. That's my argument. I argue in favor of dual wielding. I was probably completely incoherent that whole time.
It's okay, the power of editing, folks.
I'm not going to drag this on. I want to just say that I agree with Nerd there. Or dual wielding is good. But yeah, obviously there were some issues with it that came into play with Halo 3 because of course they changed a lot of things. Well. And of course Halo 2, but I think for me, something that I just hold dear to and remember all the time was just mixing and matching so many weapons together back in Halo 2, and then sometimes in Halo 3, but I don't know, one of the best things I used to do, or I'll probably die all the time doing it, but I used to love rocking, dual wielding plasma rifles. It was pointless, but I used to just love doing that. So, and that's one of my favorite weapons of all time. So, those memories I think have stuck, been engraved into my brain. But yeah, I would love to see dual wielding again return if possible. Probably will never happen, but I'm a big fan of dual wielding, even though a lot of people have arguments against it.
I think I have to play devil's advocate again with this one, because, dual wielding in theory is a really cool idea, and like you said, Ghost, it is one of the things that I have the fondest memories of doing. But in terms of actual gameplay, I don't think it's ever really been implemented well. If it's an option in say custom games or something that you can turn on and off, awesome. Even in social or competitive play, I just don't think it really fits, because most of the time people are they're always gonna divert to, the route that has the least opposition and is the easiest route to go down in terms of, killing enemy players. And most of the time that's going to be power weapon or battle rifle. So dual wielding, while it's fun, I don't know if it has a place in Halo's sandbox anymore. But again, it depends so much on how you balance it and how you get it to work. Because, you know, Halo 2, it had its problems because it was maybe a little too good. In Halo 3, it was kind of shit. So, again, it all comes back to just how you balance it. But hey, if Bungie can't do it, I don't know how 343 can. That's all I'm going to say.
I mean, they've got a place for the Ravager in the sandbox, so surely they could find somewhere for dual wielding.
Does the Ravager have a place in the
sandbox? I was about to say.
I mean, it exists.
The only place for the Ravager is off the side of the cliff, bro. Like, that's where it belongs in the sandbox.
Hey, I mean, there's an achievement for it.
Yeah, no, I did that. I did that. Absolute pain.
There's one single use for a Ravager.
Yeah. 10 game score, fuckers.
Let's go. Okay, Firefight, well, perhaps fun, isn't as good a mode as Zombies from Call of Duty or, you know, Horde mode from Gears of War. Does it stack up to... Or is Firefight even a good mode, you know? Does it stack up?
I love Firefight. I think, for me at least, I don't know about you guys, I definitely prefer playing Firefight over Zombies or any type of Horde mode, thing like that. Now, this may be a controversial thing because Black Ops Zombies like that is awesome. I still can say that. But I think for me, I played so much of Halo Reach's Firefight. And even Halo 3 ODST's Firefight, where, you know, sometimes it would be a little ridiculous how long you'd play. But I think as well, like with Reach's Firefight in particular, you could play that for so many hours, just, you know, doing the different variants of it as well, because they introduced not just the standard Firefight, but there was, you know, Rocket Firefight, Fiesta Firefight, the Max, I forget one of the harder, like Legendary, All Lives, something like that. But yeah, for me, I think I do prefer Firefight over Zombies. So that's all I'm going to say on that. But yes, I do.
This is where the Call of Duty aficionado bumps in. But I'm
COD kid.
Yeah. Unfortunately, God, what an awful childhood. Because I mean, I think it's hard to compare them because Firefight has been in 2 games if we don't want to count Warzone Firefight, which I'm not going to.
Yeah, I won't either.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, that's very far detached from what Firefight was. Whereas Zombies has been around since 2008. It's been in was World at War, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, Black Ops Cold War, and all the other shitty versions that the developers did in between that were knockoffs. So it's had more time to kind of change and evolve as a mode and add more to it. Firefight, if you want like a very basic, bare bones, jump in, play it easily, like the early Zombies maps, absolutely. I think it's a lot of fun. But if you're looking for, you know, something that's a little more complex, a little more narratively driven, again, it's so hard to compare them because, like, in terms of Horde modes, they're on the complete polar opposite ends of the spectrum.
That is a hard comparison, actually, when you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, like, overall, I prefer Zombies. I'm just going to come out straight out and say that I definitely prefer Zombies because, like, I've got so many fond memories of playing that with my friends, more so than Firefight. All I remember Firefight co-op as was back in the day on the... I don't even think they had dedicated servers on Reach, so it was super laggy for memory. Whereas Zombies wasn't, so that was always good. And, you know, Australian internet, lag takes priority. But yeah, again, they're so hard to compare. But I personally prefer Zombies just because, like I said, it's had more time to grow and evolve as a mode. That's just me. Except for Advanced Warfare Zombies. Fuck that shit. That can go and die in a ditch for all I care. Screw you, Sledgehammer.
COD Ghosts Extinction.
Yikes.
Hey, no, listen, don't talk shit about that, alright? That was fun.
Got an Extinction fan over here.
Yeah. Oh, we got badass over here.
Okay, so I'm inclined to agree. I think that Zombies, I think, was more overall, I think, enjoyable mode than like Firefight, you know, from ODST and from Reach. Because, well, again, like Laper said, it's more in depth, and I think it's also the factor of like meta progression, right? So like in Firefight, you get a few weapons at the start, and you kind of get reinforcements over time, but there's no progression at all. And the progression's obviously something that's pretty easy to get you involved in something, you know, like in COD, you know, you have the mystery box and all that, and you progress through the map, you unlock new areas, things like that. So it's pretty cool. Do kind of wish they had expanded on it rather than just cut it for Spartan Ops. But yeah, one thing I will say that I think is actually unique, I didn't enjoy Halo Reach Firefight that much, but I enjoyed ODST a lot more. Yeah, I liked ODST Firefight more. I think it's because of the inherent limitations of it, right? So when you loaded it in, you couldn't just like do random fuck about modes, It was actually a specifically designed challenge, right? Whereas in Reach it felt like just random waves and you could do whatever custom settings. I feel like it's still really disappointing that they never advanced beyond that. But I feel like if they were to, they'd need more progression.
I think another big way that they can would have Firefight be more distinct than zombies. One thing that has really taken off in recent years is like the custom zombies scene. So, custom maps and mods that have been uploaded to the Steam Workshop. But the problem is that that's only really accessible for PC players. Mm. Whereas I think where Halo could improve upon that, and you guys are going to know where I'm going with this, is forgeable Firefight. I reckon could be massive if they were to do that. Because not only would it not be exclusive to PC, it'd be very easily accessible in-game. It wouldn't just be exclusive to one platform like Steam. You could just have it there in the file browser or search for it on Waypoint or whatever and find the maps and download them and stuff. So that could be a potential way to progress the mode in the future while, staying true to kind of what it is, which is a simplistic horde-based mode where enemies just keep coming at you. And you can let the community find their own ways to develop the mode and evolve it and figure out how far you can push it before it stops being Firefight per se.
I do think one thing that would be challenging about that would be how would you allow console players to set nav meshes and design scripts for AI and things like that?
Oh, so I'll jump in here. So I've seen a lot of the Halo Infinite leaks and Forge stuff. So if I don't know about the previous Halo games, I don't know if it would be possible there. Probably not. However, with Halo Infinite's Forge, judging from what I've seen. With the scripting and the node shit, all of it, it's pretty wild. And it's very accessible for Xbox players as well as PC players. I'd say we could probably see that in the future. It just depends on if 343 are adding AI, banished AI to Infinite's Forge. And if they do that, then we could see some crazy shit like Firefight, Firefight setups, or even select campaign missions that people create in their own time. So yeah, I think if we are going to go down that route, it could be insane with Halo Infinite's Forge. The only problem is, will 343 create an actual firefight mode? Yeah. If they don't do that, then I think it'll be a little harder to do something like that and create, maps and cool little things for Firefight. But yeah, we'll see. With 343, you've got no clue. No clue.
Yeah, no idea.
Maybe in 5 years' time, we'll see.
Season 10.
The 10-year plan, that's what it is, yeah.
That's it. That's how they keep people coming back.
It's not
keep
but it's not keeping
it's 10,000 players coming back, maybe.
Yeah.
So, do we want to go on to the next question?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Do we?
Here we go.
I guess we're ready. Okay.
Boys, I'm sending this one out. I'm going to let you guys go at it.
You can't quit at this point. It's too late. Halo 4 was a good game. Oh? I'll let any of you take this one.
I mean,
I think Lathan's got this one first.
Yeah. I'll chip in right away. Okay, because there's a couple of things I want to say about Halo 4. And I'm gonna have to quote Jeremy Clarkson on this one, as he said in the Ukraine special for Top Gear in season 19. Infinite is good, but I like Halo 4 better.
Oh.
And that's going to rustle the jimmies of a lot of people, especially after that video you did on why fans hated Halo 4 so much. But genuinely, I think Halo 4 is better than Infinite, at least right now. It also depends on what type of Halo player you are, because it had nothing for the competitive scene, which was very disappointing, but in every other regard, it holds a better stack of cards compared to Infinite, and I think it was very harshly looked back on. I mean, I will say, first up, content. Say what you will about Halo 4 as a whole, but as a value-for-money package, it offered a lot up front. It's very easy to criticize each of those individual content offerings, like the campaign, and Spartan Ops is easily the worst part of the entire game, but you know, I mean, Spartan Ops
franchise.
Yeah, you'd need to down like a glass of lean to make that shit enjoyable, and everyone would have preferred Firefight. But having it in there, you know,
Hyper meth, more like it.
like just having it in the game for the lore junkies was at least considerate. Multiplayer, I know that sees a lot of criticism. At least it had a varied amount of game modes at launch. You had Infinity Slayer, Big Team Battle, Dominion, Regicide, Flood, CTF, Oddball, King of the Hill, and Team Slayer Pro, which offered an experience closer to classic Halo. And once we got more modes like Legendary BR Slayer, the classic fans were catered a little better to, shall we say. I mean, there was close to 40 sets of armor to unlock, 130 Spartan ranks, challenges that weren't compulsory to progression, fuck knows how many different visor colors, varying skins for each armor set that you could unlock by completing commendations, Forge as well, need I say more? Theater actually worked, and Machinima at that stage too wasn't completely dead. Good quality of life features like map voting, choosing your own colors, like wow, who would have fucking thought? Choosing your own emblem, no hidden matchmaking rating, no goddamn desync, like in a few years time, I'm sure my opinion will change, but it's no Reach, it's no Halo 3, but it's still good, at least.
Okay. Obviously going to have to hop in, and I guess I'm already on the record for giving out my opinion on Halo 4, but I don't think this is even really controversial to say. I wasn't really a fan of Halo 4. Yeah, it did have a lot of offering at launch. I think when you look at it, you're comparing it to what we have now. So in that ways, it kind of makes it look better. I still think fundamentally Halo Infinite is a better game ultimately, because the actual game part,
The gameplay loop,
yeah, it's more fun. Yeah, I feel like a lot of those features that it did launch with, they weren't really up to par. Especially, I think, if you compare it to what we had before, in Reach and Halo 3, like Forge, for example, was downgraded, right? Like no precision editing at launch. There were a lot of features. It was downgraded in a lot of ways, and things like magnets, and you know, you had to bake the lighting. All those supposed upgrades always came with a caveat, and there was always a double-edged sword. Yeah, I'm going to say that Halo 4 was a disappointment back then, and I feel like it has not grown. It has not grown better with age, because some people are saying that now. People are saying, like, you know, back then, it was the Bungie fans telling us we couldn't like it. Like no, back then people were celebrating. It got like a 9.6 from IGN. Like, it was lauded by critics, but then it dropped off quickly because people didn't enjoy it.
Yeah,
you know?
like I think in terms of its, you know, in terms of the like the Infinite's combat, you know, its gunfights, the music, the aesthetic of the game, that's all better. But I think looking back on it again, I just have some kind of newfound appreciation for it. And, you know, after what we've had recently, it's still, despite the compromises that they made, it still shocks me that 343 managed to get that game out in, I think, 2 years? And they managed to get all that stuff in there, even if it wasn't particularly great to begin with. And yet, you know, 6 years later with Infinite following on from the release of Halo 5, and we've just got, we're coming back to the content debate again, but we've just got nothing. Like, what happened in, you know, that period of about 10 years between the release of Halo 4 and Infinite, where like so much just like slipped through the cracks and went missing from 343 in terms of like their understanding of how important Halo as a value for money package is. I mean, I know Infinite's free to play, but Halo and content, you just kind of expect those two things, and Halo 4 mostly had it where it counts, except for Spartan Ops. Fuck that.
Well, I can get behind that.
Yeah, I'll drink to that.
From a like general standpoint, I think if we are comparing Halo 4 to say Halo Infinite, I think of course like the content offering, you know, absolutely fucks Infinite, because Infinite has, you know, it's sticks and stones. That's about it. There's nothing really substantial there.
We have to share the rock. Sorry.
So that is a problem. But with that said, I would much prefer to have Halo Infinite's gameplay and its gameplay loop overall compared to what we had in Halo 4, because I do know that regardless of what I think of Infinite and its content right now, in say 2 years from now, the game should have a lot of content on. Sorry, the game should have a lot of content on offer. So hopefully by that point, it'll be, you know, a far better package than say something like Halo 4. And then for me, then it will just straight out trump Halo 4.
Yeah.
But I will say I do agree that the content offering is far better when you look at it at the surface. But yeah, I think with what Halo Infinite's got right now, in terms of its gameplay and even its campaign, I definitely enjoyed Halo Infinite's campaign over Halo 4.
Yeah.
So I don't think Halo 4 is bad. I just don't think it's definitely better than Halo 5, but it's just, again, it's not good. It's not bad.
Yeah.
But it's not. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. That's a really tough one.
It is the kind of the metaphorical black sheep of the franchise in that sense. Like, it's hard to sort of it's hard to pin down.
To put it in a category, like
Yeah,
I would say that I am going to phase on the more of the side that it wasn't good, even though I'm just going to stick with that so we can move on. I don't want to keep this talking.
Yeah.
All right then. So, brutes, good enemies?
What is it? More brutes? Worse. They are worse than elites, though. Like, we can put that out of the way. I don't know. I think that in Halo 2, they're a pain in the ass. I really didn't like him in Halo 2. Like, I can kind of see what Bungie were going for with a bullet spongy enemy that just rushes you the moment you piss it off. But that's kind of more the Floods niche, you know? Like, they just kind of run at you all the time, as opposed to kind of standing back and playing it more tactically like the elites and other, you know, races within the Covenant do. In Halo 3, they were slightly improved, but again, they were just worse elites, like elites from Wish.com, with shields that didn't recharge. I think Infinite is probably the game that's got them down the best so far, with the different brute classes, the dynamic bits of armor that fly off and stuff, as opposed to, you know, the higher rank ones that do have shields.
So yeah, no, I like brutes as enemies, and I think I'd almost say they're actually equal to elites in terms of how fun they are to fight. I think the one issue with them in 3 was that, again, like you said, I think they're too similar to elites. But I still feel like Halo needs those kind of enemies that, you know, rush you, get right and close to melee range. Because, I mean, elites kind of have that when, you know, they pull out the sword or whatever. But with the brutes, you know, it's something with high health and something that, I think more than that you can actually dodge, right? That you can, like, jump over their heads and you can, like, get around them. You can, like, kite them and things like that. So I think that's something that Halo needs more of. It needs more, like, getting up close to enemies and actually, like, jumping over enemies, dodging enemies. So I feel like that's a role that brutes play pretty well. And I feel like the brutes in Halo Infinite are actually kind of underrated. Like, I reckon the Halo Infinite brutes were pretty cool, and they built upon the brutes that existed in previous games, Halo, you know, 2 and 3. Yeah, and I think in Halo 3, if they had, to be honest, I think a little more health, actually, especially when they're, like, charging you down, they were a bit wimpy, you know?
I'm going to say that I agree with the statement. I think brutes are actually worse than the elites. And up until, like, Halo Infinite, I think Halo Infinite was the first game to properly nail down both brutes and elites. I think Halo 3 definitely dropped the ball with the brutes big time. They were literally, as you guys were saying, elites 2.0 or elite 2.0s. And they weren't really interesting to fight, in my opinion, because you could walk up to one, move around, and just melee it, and then they'll do this, like, stunned animation, and then after the stunned animation, you can just melee them again, and they're dead. So for me, I think they were a little bit boring in Halo 3. Halo 2 I actually prefer, even though on Legendary, they were very ridiculous, you know, always up in your face, always charging you, made Legendary very difficult, and I think the balancing was a bit stuffed. Or it definitely is stuffed in Legendary.
In Halo 2, just jump on, like, a column or a pillar and say, just on a tiny potted plant just above them, they can't get you.
Yeah, they just keep trying to hit the pole or the plant. They're like,
poke them, just swat them away.
Goddamn chief, get down from there. Yeah. So I overall, I do think the elites are better enemies than the brutes. But I've got to say they definitely were shining in Halo Infinite, which was, as you say, underrated.
They glowed up.
People talk about it. Yeah, they had a glow up. But if we are going to talk about the general statement, I do think the elites are better than the brutes as enemies, in my opinion.
Was Halo 3 a downgrade from Halo 2?
Ghost, you start us off with this one.
Yeah, you open it. This is you.
Okay, so in certain aspects, I've got to say yes, it was. Particularly in the story. The story dropped for me. It dropped hard, especially with the Prophet of Truth. His motivations were crazy weird. And also, I think a lot of the other characters, like Miranda, Keys, like, oh my god, like, what a fucking dumb character. And her death was executed so poorly, in my opinion. And then just, you know, a lot of the other story beats, like the Arbiter getting pushed to the side, was a big issue I had with Halo 3 story. Overall, the actual gameplay experience is so much fun, which obviously carries it. And of course, you got the fantastic score, you know, by Marty O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore that obviously escalates the game even higher. But I think overall, if I had to rate it, like from the campaign point of view, I think Halo 2's campaign was definitely better than Halo 3, from at least in my point of view, from the story, and also gameplay environments. Because there's one mission that I really like, and this may catch you guys off guard here, but do you know from the mission, it's what is it? I can't remember if it's Oracle. The tower is in a free fall. And like the
Oracle.
The Oracle. That's right. Yeah, Oracle. So that mission, I love that whole environment where you have to go, you know, through this like tower facility, or this facility, and then, you know, once the tower's in free fall, you have to like escape, and that shit was awesome. The only problem with that, of course, was waiting as you were going down these like, I don't know, not like a pylon, but like this. You know the spiral that like takes you down? It's like this elevator, this lift, and it took like forever. That's probably the worst thing about Halo 2, like that part of that mission. But I think the environments were better as a whole compared to, say, Halo 3.
It is what it is. Okay, I think Halo 3 was better in terms of both campaign and multiplayer. I guess I'll go head first into the story. So the Halo 3 story, it's less in depth, and it might you could even argue it's a downgrade, right, from Halo 2. But I think a lot of the points people make, I don't think they're really as valid as they let on. Like, okay, I think Miranda's death was kind of stupid. Like, it was kind of irrational and just like rushed in by herself. But some of the other points, like for example, Johnson's death, right? I don't think that was, I think that made sense, right? That didn't feel phoned in to me. As well as that, I think Truth's change of character. So that's a big point for a lot of people. By the time they got to Halo 3, there wasn't really, like, when you actually think about it, like, where would you go with Truth's character in Halo 3? You need to make a third game that's more climactic. Because Halo 3, right, it's based on the third act of, was meant to be the third act of Halo 2, so the story was already basically done. What do you do by that point with the character? Like, and I think the biggest thing was the fact that at the end of Halo 2, he sent Tartarus over to light the, you know, thinking he was going to light the Halo rings and, you know, set it all off. Like, why would he do that if he actually had a secret plan to, what, just like hold on to power or something?
There's a lot of like lore that has since tried to go on to explain that discrepancy in character, with Truth going from like a hardcore, you know, like the manipulative, but also he's very much faithful in the Covenant religion and believes the things that he's saying, to in Halo 3 where we see him and, you know, like he's getting ready to get Johnson to light the rings, but he very clearly says, you know, that secret dies with all the rest. So he knows that the rings are going to kill everyone. So there's a discrepancy in character there, which is a bit inconsistent, but, you know, going from the manipulative kind of, you know, puppet master to the kind of like the big, what's the word I'm looking for? He's a bit maniacal in Halo 3, and he's a bit
megalomaniac.
Well, yeah, because he has no further, like, there's nothing holding him back anymore.
Yeah,
because
there's no further development for him.
Well, that and like there's no other prophets that he needs to contend with anymore. So his position of power is like complete. You know, there's no one else who can chip him off his throne, because the only other person who could probably contend for that would probably be the Arbiter or Tartarus, because they're both seen as kind of like leader figures. But the rest of like the prophets are all dead, so he's just able to go all out and let it slip.
And I feel like it's the same with the Arbiter. No, so no, what I was saying with the sidelining of the Arbiter, I think it's similar to Truth. Like plot was already basically done. There was only the third act left. Like, there wasn't really much development you could do. There wasn't anything else to reveal. There wasn't any way they could grow. Like, they were already basically, their arc was basically finished. So yeah,
I agree with that. But what I will say is, I think the Arbiter's, like, you know, narrative or his overall, you know, plot, I don't think it ends until Truth dies. So that whole segment, and I was really happy about that. That's one of my favorite cutscenes, when he kills the Prophet of the Truth, because I think that's like the end of his arc, in my opinion. And then afterwards, it's just him choosing to help the Master Chief finish the fight. So for me, I would have loved to have played. I know this is gonna sound so bad, but I would have loved to have played, you know, actually as the Arbiter, the mission, the Covenant, and getting dropped off at one of the citadels with the elites, storming it, and then meeting up with the Master Chief to then kill the Prophet of the Truth. And now I know that's probably a lot of people are going to go, hang on, you don't want to play as the Master Chief for that mission? Are you fucking crazy? And probably yes, but no. So I feel like it would have wrapped up his story better if we got to just play as the Arbiter one last time, as the last hurrah to kill the Prophet of the Truth. And then after that, you have, you know, Master Chief saving Cortana, and then of course lighting the ring, you know. So yeah, I don't know, that's probably a very controversial thing there as well, but I think, yeah, I don't think the Arbiter's whole, like, arc didn't end until Truth died. So yeah, I mean, that's just my thoughts though.
Yeah, I mean, Arbiter's mainly just kind of dug up for the sake of co-op, really, isn't he? And having like a second character there who isn't Chief. And
he also needed to close off his arc with Truth as well.
Yeah,
there is that.
I still enjoyed the way they did it. You know, seeing the Arbiter was awesome.
I think by that point they did basically have aligned goals, story-wise, anyway. So.
Yeah. I am gonna say though, I'm almost almost the opposite to you, Ghost, with what you said. How you said that, like, you prefer Halo 3's multiplayer over Halo 2's, but you prefer Halo 2's campaign over Halo 3's. I'm the opposite, because I prefer Halo 2's multiplayer. I don't know why. Oh, wow, really? I'm just a masochist, I guess. But I think Halo 3's campaign, while shorter than Halo 2's, edges it out ever so slightly. Not so much in the story department, but more so because I think it comes down to variety primarily, because in Halo 2, some of the missions just kind of like blend into one another. Like, there's not much of a discrepancy between, say, Metropolis and Outskirts, or the Arbiter and the Oracle.
I was going to say as well.
Yeah, they're good examples.
What's the other one? It's Quarantine Zone, and it's either one before or after it.
Sacred Icon.
Sacred Icon, that's it. Like, they could very easily, in any other Halo game, just be one big, long, uninterrupted mission. And I think part of the reason that they split them up is because that one, they probably were on crunch. Two, they needed to pan out the game and make it look like it had more missions.
Probably also limitations of the Xbox as well.
Yes. That probably would have been another big thing as well. But Halo 3, on the other hand, every mission from the last, and I'm bringing up shit that I talked about in my retrospective, but every mission feels totally different from the last one. Like, there's no kind of blending in from one mission to another. It's all like completely different environments that are all unique from the last, with the only exception being the Storm and Floodgate. But even then, Floodgate is like completely different environment in the way it feels and the atmosphere and stuff. It's really scary. It's like probably one of my favorite missions, just because of how well the atmosphere is done. What the fuck is that? Trying to throw me off here.
Oh my god.
I need a win.
But I think in terms of the fuck, I can't.
If that doesn't throw you off, I don't know what will. Seriously.
Oh, man. It's
you have to show that on the screen.
Show me posted in the chat,
but I think Halo 3, in terms of its variety from mission to mission and just the environments and stuff that you fight in, are way more memorable and like just fun than Halo 2's. But yeah, Halo 2 is the better story by leagues and miles. It's so much more intricate, more detailed. There's more kind of like interconnecting strands and stuff. The Arbiter helps carry that a lot as well. But multiplayer, I think I just prefer the simplicity of Halo 2. Like Halo 3, it's not much of a step up. Like, it feels more balanced. but there's just something about that. Like Halo 2 to me is just like core classic Halo. As
You have good map design.
yeah, again, like Halo 2 I think is the best maps in the series. Like Lockout, you have what is it? Coagulation, which is a good remix of Blood Gulch. And like a ton of others that there's some that
elongation and all those ones.
Yeah, and there's a ton that are slept on as well. Like, God, hold on, I need to get up a list of these maps because like there are some that are really was that the one with the train in the middle?
Yeah.
That one was fucking sick.
That one is very interesting. Yeah.
There was so many really good. Hold on, what do we got here? Backwash was good. Tombstone was.
That makes me sad thinking about Halo Infinite's maps.
Zanzibar, which went on to...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we all know that one from Halo 3 more so. Midship as well, Relic. God, there was...
Oh, yeah, I like Relic, yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of really good maps in Halo 2 that I think were...
I like Backwash, honestly.
Yeah, Backwash was good too, good atmosphere. But, like, there was just so many good things about Halo 2, and I think that, again, it's probably nostalgia talking because I played so much of it, but I don't know, there's just something about it that I prefer over Halo 3, even if it is scuffed with button combos and, you know, crazy shit like that.
Very, very unbalanced.
The game is. I'm not gonna say that it's perfectly balanced as all things should be. That I think that title can be handed over to Halo 3, but Halo 2 is just so much fun.
Yeah, I think one thing I'll say is, before I was just justifying the story isn't as bad as people say, but I still think Halo 2's story is better. But one thing I will say, I still prefer the Halo 3 campaign. Like you said, the variety. So basically the level design. I think the level design in Halo 3 is a lot better than Halo 2. And I think anything that really followed as well. Like there's been nothing like the Scarab. I think just like in gaming in general. Right, like Halo 4 kind of tried it with the Lich, and it was like kind of flying, but it was not the same at all. It wasn't like an actual enemy fight; it was just some scripted thing. But just the levels in Halo 3, they're so well made, so well designed. The Scarab battle, the AI, just oh man, Halo 3, dude. That's all I gotta say.
It's just built.
I think every level in Halo 3. Besides Cortana was good, and even Cortana, it had redeeming aspects. The final question on the agenda. Halo 5 was a good game. I'm gonna say it was alright.
The build-up! I'm gonna say...
It was alright. It was alright.
Yeah, it was okay.
Well, the multiplayer, obviously, as people say, was kind of fun. The Forge was good, but it didn't grab me. It didn't really, it didn't have the draw for me. Like, I couldn't keep playing it. Like, I played enough of it to get an idea of how it works and, you know, all that, but couldn't keep at it. I did not really enjoy Warzone very much, even though it seemed so cool, right? Like, massive PvP battles and then PvE as well with like hunters and stuff, and you can progress better weapons. Sounds cool, but it was nowhere near as cool in practice.
It was extremely sweaty though as well, because what you'd find is that you'd have either a really fantastic team, or you're gonna verse a really fantastic team that's gonna shit on you all match and farm you at your base. And I remember this because at the start of the game, whoever bought the rec packs, they'd have the really insane weapons. And I remember, like, you know, walking out like just a fresh noob with Halo 5, having like the battle rifle, the Halo 5 one you get, and the guy just came out with like the Spanker Prime, which was this like special rocket launcher.
Yeah,
and you just get fucking destroyed, and you're like, what in the fuck was that? But yeah, like I think some experiences I had with Warzone were actually really enjoyable when I was winning, but anytime I was losing, it was just horrific. So yeah, I think as well, like, with Warzone, I actually kind of did enjoy that mode, but with the rec packs just kind of ruined it, unfortunately. There was a lot of potential with that mode, but if they had cut the rec packs and made it this thing where everybody leveled up at the same time, I think that would have been a far better, you know, game mode overall. But the competitive side, so let's like go to Arena, I think overall it was just far too competitive. It was there was barely any room for any social game modes, social players until custom browser came along.
True.
So yeah, in a way, I would say Halo 5's multiplayer was good and bad, but Halo 5's campaign was just absolute freaking white ass dog shit. It was, yeah. I think everyone knows. I don't want to say it. It was horrific. But the multiplayer was the saving grace, although for a lot of people it didn't feel like Halo. So, yeah, I would say it wasn't good.
Sorry, did you guys talk shit about Warzone? Secure your noise hole, soldier! I'm here to tell you about rec packs and why they're the best damn thing ever.
That was the worst advertising campaign they've ever done.
Yeah.
How many dislikes did they get on that video?
Well, we can't see now, can
Not
we?
enough. Yeah.
Oh.
So basically, one thing I will actually defend about the Halo 5 campaign, I actually like the Sang Helios levels. Although, to be fair, I think I only played...
Fair enough.
I'm not sure if I even went back and played through it again, but I remember the first time around I enjoyed them, actually. Because, there was like a Mantis on one of them. The Mantis was one of the things about 343's games I actually enjoyed. The Mantis, that was fun.
Then they scrapped it for Infinite.
Yeah, I know.
It'll come
That's
back.
one thing I hope they bring back. The Mantis was fun.
It'll come back.
Yeah, Some people don't like the Mantis and think it doesn't really fit in with Halo's, iconic vehicles per se. But yeah, that's what they were.
What do you mean? It fits in perfectly. Rule of cool.
But
Exactly.
yeah, I do think we'll see it again because I think it's like 343's baby that they introduced with Halo 4. So I do think we'll see it at some point. And also, it's
like 12 years.
It is with Halo Infinite 2. That's what we'll see. With,
Oh god.
Yeah.
In front of me right now, I am holding the box for Halo 5. This isn't the original one that I bought because I've owned 2 copies of the game because I sold my original one in late of 2016, and I got this with my Xbox One X a couple of years ago. But on the back of it, it says, "The hunt for the truth begins." Now,
Oh, God.
I don't know about you guys, but I didn't discover any fucking truths playing this game. The only truth I discovered while playing it was that the entire marketing was BS. There was nothing that related to the story whatsoever. Man, it's just so much promise, But even before that, I remember playing the Halo 5 beta not long after MCC came out, and just like, it was like seeing Superman get stabbed by a kryptonite blade in Superman Returns, It's just seeing your childhood get stabbed brutally. It's just, that's what it felt like, because like the game looked totally different. It played completely differently to every other Halo game. And it's just like, there was just an unbridled rage that built up inside me when I saw how they massacred my boy. But Halo 5 did eventually get better. Like Forge and stuff was great, but I just... Yeah, I can't...
2017 Halo 5 was honestly a really good package.
Yeah.
But launch... Oh god, here we go again. Comparing... I'm about to do it. Halo Infinite to Halo 5. If you look at it, Halo 5 was actually better, but... how the fuck did 343 not learn from that mistake? Yeah. I swear to God, like everyone spoke about it. The one thing they had to get right was releasing Halo Infinite as a full, complete package. And they couldn't do that.
Did Microsoft have any user data or anything that they looked at and they thought, this might be a good idea, making the exact same fucking mistake that our last game die.
Nothing was wrong with this.
But yeah, even by 2017, I think I'd clocked out of Halo 5. So that
was the problem though. Yeah. Too many people had clocked out by that point. So it was only the hardcore Halo players that were sticking at it. So,
but I think it was the fundamental gameplay that just couldn't hold me.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it sacrificed a lot of the things. Like I said, all those movements. People say it raised the skill gap or whatever, or the skill
ceiling. Yeah.
Ceiling. Yeah. I feel like it's more like it raised the skill floor. So the skill floor, they say it's meant to be easy to learn but hard to master, right?
Yeah.
Halo 5 was more hard to learn but hard to master, because to actually be even decent at it, to be competitive at it, you need to have all these movements down pat, all those different parkour, all the sliding and all the different jumps and all the different movement around the maps that you need to remember, and how to string you know, what was it, like the hover with the, you know, the thrust and the ground pound, and kind of chain things together to get to different points, and you had to use all that in the game, so it was very complex. But I feel like that was like the baseline, like it wasn't easy to get into, and I feel like a lot of that was not really super engaging. Like it was a lot of rote learning. It felt like just trying to memorize a poem, you know, like just keep doing it over and over. And I feel like it's a game where you would have gotten good at it just like practicing that stuff by yourself in a custom game lobby as you would have actually playing online. Whereas I feel like with previous Halo games, if you really wanted to get better at it, there wasn't really much you could do on your own. Like you had to play online, you had to learn about strategies and how other people interacted, right? So, and you had to like beat other people to the power weapons, right? And you had to memorize, and I guess that's one thing, right? Like you could memorize the power weapons in previous games, whereas in Halo 5, it told everyone when they spawned.
The whole new movement stuff kind of came at the compromise of everything else in Halo's sandbox. Like Halo 5's physics to me didn't feel as interesting. The weapons and their variety wasn't as cool either, to be honest. Like there was just...
They were all lasers.
Yeah, exactly. Because of how fast the player movement was, everything was hit scan.
And they had to be,
Yeah, and they had like super high bullet magnetism.
Like, and it had, apparently it actually had similar levels of magnetism to Halo 3 and like previous games, but obviously the difference was you had a faster projectile. So the magnetism was in it was put into greater detail, right? It was stronger because your bullet moved faster, even though it's technically the same value. It was easier to hit enemies, basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, and like vehicles as well, I feel like didn't really have much of a place in the game because of how fast everyone was, how like all the abilities were given to the player and not the sandbox around them, which is what Halo is more so known for, is like giving you the tools to do stuff, but not really telling you how to do it. Whereas Halo 5 was more like, okay, this is what you have. It's all you. It's, this is how you do all this stuff. You ground pound, you Spartan charge, you shoulder charge, you zip, you fucking jump in the air and aim down your sights and you hover in the air. It's like, there's just like, I felt like it just ruined the basic kind of feeling of Halo. And
yeah, I feel like fundamentally, I feel like the shooters in general, fundamentally, they should be mechanically simple.
Yeah.
Right? And like the complexity should come with your interactions and the world around you. Like I think it might have been a John Romero quote, something like that. Like fundamentally shooters, the appeal of shooters being their, mechanical simplicity or something like that.
And we also saw like there was that fad kind of in the mid 2010s where every shooter was trying to be, enhanced movement, Titanfall kind of levels of stuff. And a lot of shooters like Halo
and trends.
Yeah, and Call of Duty, they kind of followed that trend. And, where's that big evolution to gameplay now? We haven't had a jetpack COD since 2016. And, Halo 5 and all its crazy new abilities have kind of been left in the dust or relegated to equipment pickups on the map in Infinite. So I think it just goes to show that it was very much... just hopping on the trends and trying to evolve the game in a way that would appeal to the widest possible demographic and what Microsoft probably thought was best in their consumer research, but maybe not so much in terms of their actual existing player base and what they liked. And if there's anything that Infinite has taught us, it's that the existing Halo player base is more than enough to carry a game just based on its simple gameplay alone, and it's enough to bring in new people too. It's just, keeping those people invested. But again, it's another discussion.
That's a problem for Infinite. But that's exactly right. What you said there.
Titanfall ended up becoming a soulless battle royale with none of the cool mechanics anyway.
I'm still holding out for Titanfall 3 though, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the issue with Titanfall, and this is a big tangent, was that it had all these cool movement features, but that was kind of pointless because none of that carried into any of your battles because it was trying to be Call of Duty. So it had things like, had like sprint and aim down sight and all of that and loadouts. Whenever you got into an actual battle with an enemy, what would you do? You'd aim down sight, which naturally, you know, stops you from sprinting, stops you from moving, slows you down. So I think that kind of is almost a flaw in the entire advanced mobility thing as a whole, which is why, like you said, I think everybody's moved away from that now.
Yeah, no, you have a good point there. At the end of the day, like all the grapple shots in the world and, you know, all the crazy maneuvers you can do doesn't matter for shit if the end of, you know, if a gunfight is still just going to be strafing left and right, aiming down sights really slowly. Like, it doesn't really matter.
All right, so thank you for watching. That's bye from me.
But do we need to sign off? Is that a thing?
Oh, if you want, you know.
Yeah.
You go first, then.
Yeah. Hey. If you're feeling generous, you know, you should totally check out the Leif Paladin YouTube channel and chuck a like. You wouldn't.
You're always scared.
Yeah. He said the thing.
There you go. You're way scared. Whatever you do not go to my channel. It is an absolute joke. Just trust me, stay far away. My channel was terrible. I don't really have a reason that could entice anyone to come to my channel, but if you're feeling like you want to give to charity, subscribe.
If you want to give to charity.
Maybe check me out. But yeah, thanks. Great discussion as always, guys.
Epic. Nice.